Hey, what's up guys, it's Ari. After 6 straight years of just solving the standard 3x3 Rubik's Cube, I finally have gotten a little bit sick of it. As a bit of a different thing, I have started to get into the Megaminx. It's similar to the 3x3 in that it carries over a bunch of 3x3 solving principles, but you have twice the amount of sides. So after acquiring the Diane Megaminx here from speedcubeshop.com, link in the description, I've progressed my times averaging around from 2 minutes in mid-February all the way to my first sub 1 minute average, which I achieved in late April of 2022, with relatively intermittent practice and only about a couple thousand Megaminx solves, so not that many. If you want to learn how to solve a Megaminx firstly, you can check out this video in the card above here, and let's just get into the tips. My first tip is to become very familiar with turning the Megaminx. Holding it is quite similar to that of a regular 3x3, which this is home grip here, where you have the thumb on the front, I have a pinky on the bottom here, and these other fingers to kind of support, allowing me to effectively turn the 3x3. You can transfer that same grip over from the 3x3 here to the Megaminx. Your left hand, if you're right-handed, becomes kind of like the anchorage point to holding the Megaminx itself. And the right hand here is the thing that does the turning of the right layer and the U layer primarily. And then you can use your index finger and your thumb on the front here to do F and U moves. I like to have my pinky on the bottom like I do with the 3x3 here, just to give it that bit of stability. The big two things for me when I was first getting into Megaminx was that U2s on a 3x3 do not translate as U2s on the Megaminx, as obviously this only has 4 sides per face, so a U2 and a U2 prime are the exact same thing, and you can use them interchangeably depending on finger tricks. Whilst on Megaminx, obviously because there are 5 sides per face, some U2 and U2 prime are different things. So if I did a U2 and then I wanted to go back to the previous solved state, if I did another U2, it would leave me a U move out because it has an extra side. So that's just something to keep in mind. That's also where ADOs or IDOs can be pretty useful sometimes. So in this algorithm here, I use my left index finger to pull across and do U2s. So my biggest tip here is just to get used to turning the Megaminx. Play around with it, see what finger tricks you can come up with, and try to reduce regrips if possible. The thing is that you have a little bit more time with Megaminx in comparison to the regular 3x3. Like, we just got our second ever official sub 4 single, which is pretty crazy on the 3x3. Meanwhile, the Megaminx, you have a little bit more leeway, so you can afford to do a couple more regrips, I think. Although it's not a bad idea to bring over maybe some of the regripping principles from the 3x3 onto the Megaminx just to be optimal or whatever the kids are doing nowadays. Finally, for turning and Megaminx hardware in general, the reason why I hadn't started solving Megaminx was I had a pretty trash Megaminx. This is the Galaxy V1 Megaminx from X-Man. I've lost some pieces. This is the reason why I hadn't gotten to Megaminx prior to this new one from Speed Cube Shop, which I really appreciate, because this thing is not fun to turn. Just buy yourself a nice Megaminx, get the Yoohoo V2M if you want something for budget. Just
buy a magnetic cube.
Or dodecahedron in this case. There's a minor footnote here, check this timestamp for the footnote. Now the big thing here is F2L and S2L pairing and block building. So if you're familiar with solving a Megaminx, you'll understand that it's similar to solving a 3x3, except instead of a cross, you have a star on the bottom, then you solve the first 2 layers, second 2 layers, then the final layer. A lot of stuff is transferable from 3x3 as the composition of pairs is still the exact same. You have a corner and edge, and you just need to insert it into the correct slot like so. However, there's a lot more flexibility in solving, as instead of just having one working face, so on a 3x3, if I want to solve this pair, I'll have to use this layer, the U layer, here to pair it up before I can insert it. Whereas on the Megaminx, you have a number of more working faces at your disposal just to solve it however you want. So instead of me having to just solve into this slot with only this face, I have all of these other faces that I could potentially use to solve this F2L pair like so. There are so many ways to pair up Megaminx pairs, way too much for the scope of this video. So be sure to get onto those plentiful example solves on the YouTube. Take note of different ways that people solve their F2L and S2L pairs. An important bit to note is that sometimes you'll be presented with some nice blocks on the Megaminx where stuff is already solved for you. Here's one I prepared earlier. So since this block here is already solved, I can just move this edge around and then I can solve this S2L kind of a pairing in the bottom here. So I can just do this and that solves it there, since the pair was already made and I just block built it and put it in the correct solves position. My best advice for this is to take the pressure off timing your own solves. I know it's really addictive, probably do this way more than I should. Do some untimed solves, play around with ways you can solve the F2L pairs and see what you can come up with yourself. As of making this video, there's no actual Megaminx F2L or S2L solution list like there is for like 3x3 on SpeakyDB and other platforms, because there's just so many. But maybe if you comment, we need a list enough times, and maybe he'll make one. Check out SpeakyDB. This is not a sponsored bid or anything, it just has a bunch of cool algs. Especially useful for Megaminx Last Layer, which we'll touch on later on. I'll end this section with a final F2L case. So on 3x3, if you have this case, the standard way to solve it is to do a U prime, a sledge, then you insert it. On Megaminx, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 moves. So you can do a R, U prime, R, and then a U prime up here to bring the pair into the solve position, then an R2 prime. I think that really exemplifies the ways that you can use different faces on the Megaminx to solve pairs in a way that you wouldn't be able to on the 3x3. Because if you did that on the 3x3, R, U prime, R, B prime, R2 prime, you'd either have to do an extra U move to solve that here, whereas I think R, U prime, R prime, F, the 3-gen solution is much better, but on Megaminx you don't have to do that thing with the B up there, you just have to do a single move in. It's pretty nice. The next tip is very much a double-edged sword. Some very common Megaminx advice is to have a fixed S2L order. That is, after you've solved your F2L, you go into your S2L, the second 2 layers, and you have a specific order in which you solve the colors. So for my order personally is after solving F2L, I go into the pink face here. I will solve, doing this behind the camera is a bit funky, and then I'll move on to the next tan or beige color face. Then I'll move on to the aqua color, then the orange, then the green, and then I'll have the entire S2L solved already. This leads back to the block building aspect, where in some cases it may be unfavorable to stick to that S2L order very, very, very strictly, because there's stuff already pre-made sometimes, stuff that's already solved. So you might as well take advantage of that, right? Again, my best advice at this stage is just to experiment and see what works best for you. Some people might find having a set S2L order really, really helps. For me, it did at that stage. But now I'm finding that I see blocks over here at the start of my Megaminx S2L that I'm like, I can solve that first, and then I'll go ahead back over here and go around in more of a freestyle manner rather than set to that specific order. So yeah, give both a go, see what works best for you. It might change over time as well. My fourth tip is to watch example solves and take advantage of your 3x3 knowledge. Touched on this in the Megaminx S2L and F2L bits, but I'm just going to repeat it for the people in the back. Watch example solves. Enough said. My next tip is to learn for, look, last, what's happening to the video? Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh no.
When it comes to last layer in a Megaminx, most people will use for look last layer. It's exactly what it sounds like, and it works the same way it does on 3x3. The first step is to solve edge orientation, and there are 3 cases. Next, we solve corner orientation, and there are 16 cases. The third step is to solve edge permutation, and to do this, there are 5 cases. And finally, we have corner permutation, and there are 15 cases. So in total, for look last layer is 39 cases, which might sound like a lot, but in reality, most of these are just 3x3 transfers and you'll already know them. In addition, you can actually skip the 15 corner permutation algs by using these things called commutators. I'm not going to go into them in this video because I don't have enough time, but essentially, you solve everything intuitively, so you don't actually have to learn algorithms to solve corner permutation. Although commutators save you from having to learn 15 algorithms, they can be pretty slow, so I'd recommend actually learning good algs for all of the CP cases, because you can execute them much faster than you could with commutators. When it comes to actually improving at Megaminx Last Layer, a lot of it just comes down to practice. For look last layer is still viable all the way up to around sub 50, and then from there you should start learning more advanced things like one look PLL, but it can get you really far, so it just comes down to a lot of practice. And there's also a lot of minor optimizations such as block preservation and alternate algs, but I'm not going to go into those as those are a bit more advanced.
Okay, I'm back now. Hi. That was Jeremy from the JavaCuber YouTube channel. Go check him out. He's much faster than me. I'm not sure how I feel about him suddenly taking over my video feed, but okay. Tip 6 is to practice, practice, practice. Yes, okay, practice makes perfect, right? Blah, blah, blah. I think the better saying is perfect practice makes perfect. I could do a whole nother video on this. Get subscribed for that. So ensure that you're practicing in good habits when you're practicing Megaminx and any event and anything you do in life for that matter. Just stop yourself and ask whether that you're using the new techniques that you're learning or just kind of absorbing them and then not applying them, which is something I do probably too much of as well. Here's the hardware color shades footnote bit. This is the bit where I talk about those slightly less standard color schemes that some Megamixes opt for improved recognition. The difference between the tan, beige color and the white isn't very much. I'll apply a filter now and you can see in yellowish lighting it's not very good. Some Megamixes opt to swap out this color. Some Megamixes also opt out of the gray by switching it to black. That seems to be the standard color swap. Same with Square One. For most of these puzzles, they will be either included with the puzzle or you can purchase them separately for like a couple dollars magnetized. Keep in mind that most competitive Megamixes nowadays come in stickerless only, so your custom sticker color scheme may be a bit limited on modern Megamixes. I hope these tips were helpful and insightful and that they've somewhat encouraged you to go pick up the Megamix again. Or purchase one using code ARI.
Use discount code JavaCuber.
Okay, at speedcubeshop.com and get solving again. It's a unique challenge and I just cannot put it down. Hit like, get subscribed, all that good stuff if you found it helpful. It helps me out a lot. And check out Jeremy's channel out as well. It's linked in the card here. Anyway, if you enjoyed that, check out this video here on F2L Look Ahead or something completely different. Check out this Rubik's Cube vlog here and be sure to check out Jeremy's channel as well. Thanks for watching.